right, welcome to the Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 regular meeting of the Ann Arbor Planning Commission. For detailed information on meeting procedures, please review the full printed agenda provided. Manager Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Lee.
I'm here.
Commissioner Weish.
Here.
Noting that Secretary Hammerschmidt will be absent this evening, Commissioner Abrams.
Here.
Noting that Councilmember Dish will be absent this evening, Commissioner Mills.
Here.
Commissioner Weatherby.
Here.
Noting that Commissioner Adams will also be absent this evening, Commissioner Norton.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. We're going to move on to approval of the agenda. May I have a motion? Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Mills. Is there all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 13th, 2025 meeting? Moved by Commissioner Weatherby, seconded by Commissioner Abrams. Any discussion of the minutes? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next are the Planning Commission reports and written communications. We will go to Manager Kelly.
On behalf of the council report, I can share that 1155 Arlington, the annexation for that address was approved. Also, upon first reading, an ordinance amendment to modified land divisions was passed, and reappointment was approved for Commissioners Lee, Hammerschmidt, and Abrams, with terms ending in June 2028. For the manager report, your meeting hold on 5/27, I had told you a couple of meetings back that we might need to use that for the comprehensive plan. That is not the case. And also our ORC team has decided they would like to push significant work to be better ready for discussion to that July meeting. Therefore, the meeting on the 27th, that meeting will be canceled. The 6/3 meeting is proposed to begin at 5:30 p.m. You'll see a proposed updated calendar in tonight's agenda under other business, and that meeting will include several comprehensive plan presentations related to infrastructure, sustainability, economic development, as well as the implementation matrix for the draft comprehensive plan. I would also like to mention that staff are undergoing work to compile themes and to do additional data analysis of the surveys that were filled out by members of the public during our engagement sessions at the various branch libraries.
Great. Thank you, Manager Kelly. Do other commissioner officers or committee liaison have anything else to report? Okay, written communications are included in today's packet. So we're going to move on to the first public hearing. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on issues not listed as a public hearing. We'll first hear from those present and then remote participants. And to speak remotely, please press *9 if on the phone or use the raise hand feature in Zoom. For phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name on Zoom. You'll hear an automated announcement when it's your turn to speak, and please move to a quiet area. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present that would like to speak at this time? Hello, Mr. Garber.
Thank you, Chair Lee. Ken Garber, 28 Haverhill Court. So really possible I'm the only one here to speak after what's happened in the last couple months? Okay. I'm here to talk about the height exception in UDC 518.4. Later tonight, you'll consider the 625 Church project. This is the 4th building in just the last several months to take advantage of the sustainability height exception. The others were 1208 South University, 17 stories, 1209 South University, 19 stories, and 3313 Brown Court, 7 stories in D2, which has a 60-foot height limit. The reason we're seeing a flood of these higher rises is because in December 2023, City Council eliminated floor area ratio limits for D1 and D2. Until then, FAR was the limiting factor and buildings weren't bumping up against the height limits. Now they are, and the sustainability height exception has become the norm. Everyone wants it. But in my opinion, it's less and less an incentive and more a loophole. Now, why do I say that? Note that no one is going for the affordability height exception. That's 15% of units at 60% AMI, or payment in lieu. All this suggests to me that the sustainability exception, height exception, is too easy. You've heard me push electrification ad nauseum at this podium, but now I think we're giving away all that height for something that developers may be doing anyway. Core spaces, for instance, went all electric at 333 East William without the height exception. Why do we think they need it for 625 Church? So while the affordability height exception isn't working at all, the sustainability height exception may be working too well to the point where it just enables higher downtown buildings. Here's a radical solution. Modify UDC 518.4 to require both sustainability and affordability in order to be rewarded with the 30% extra height. Otherwise, I fear we're just giving it away with nothing in return, except some token rooftop solar. The electric might be happening anyway at this point. I'm not ready to declare victory, but it's been several years since any of these downtown high-rises have proposed gas heat. All-electric residential new construction has been the norm on the coasts for some time now, and maybe it's now becoming the norm here. If so, I give you people all the credit for pushing it at this table for years now, even though you can't require it. So maybe it's time to consider changing the UDC height exception to include both affordability and sustainability. See where that gets us. Maybe more affordable housing in addition to the all-electric buildings we're seeing now. So that's my suggestion, and I've run out of time, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Do we have anyone else present that would like to speak at this time?
Mr. Chair, we do have one online caller.
Perfect.
Lisa Jevons, you have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, I'm Lisa Jevons, 1054 Martin Place. Today I received a large trifold flyer from the city containing information about the comprehensive plan, among other accomplishments and positions of the current administration. You all probably received the flyer too. I have never received a mailer like this from the city in 18 years of living here. It really got my attention. So I have a question that I would like answered on the record by the commission when you have a chance later on to address public comments. And I know that I'm speaking for many public commenters who have raised this issue before. My question is, was a mailing like this ever considered in 2024 when the public comprehensive planning process began? And if it was considered, why was nothing sent? And if a mailing was never even considered, then why not? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
There is one other hand raised, phone number ending in 534. You have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Good evening. This is Tom Stolberg calling from 1202 Traver Street in the heart of Lower Town in Ann Arbor. I want to pick up on what Kim Garber said. We've got that flexible development option in our code, and it's always good to take a look at those and see how they're working, tweak them. If you recall, that was originally put in with a third item similar to that, where you've got, if a developer wanted to eliminate their parking minimums, they could do that in exchange for the affordable housing or sustainability. That was superseded by giving the parking away for free with another ordinance later on. So here's a suggestion. Put that back where the developer can choose between maybe 2 out of 3 of no parking minimum requirements, or the sustainability, or the affordable housing requirement, or throw in a fourth. Maybe have voluntary design review board review, something with teeth in it. So we have a lot of ability to make viable, flexible development options, just tweak them periodically. I'm also concerned about something that was said at the last meeting. It had to do with transition districts, where it seems like people are very adamant on the Planning Commission about if it was R4C, it becomes transition district, and that's just what we're going to stick to with very, very rare exceptions. Now, you want to upzone certain areas to transition district, but you don't want to downzone, is what I was hearing from some voices there at all. That really raises some issues because of getting rid of the flex district and putting a lot of different uses into the transition district. So you have neighborhoods that are R4C that are predominantly two-story houses currently now. That could include the old Fourth Ward Historic District. That can include a lot of other areas, some areas in my neighborhood. And now those are thrown into being transition district, and the uses that are allowed, not just the heights that are so much more than the low-rise residential, but the different uses that are allowed could be problematic in those areas where the infrastructure, the streets, and the neighborhood itself really can't support those type of uses that are going to be allowed in the transition district. But Leonard mentioned that if you allow hotels, then you're going to allow non-primary residence short-term rentals, Airbnbs. That could be devastating to the city as a whole, reducing our housing stock for long-term rentals with an explosion of short-term rentals. Now, this isn't fear-mongering. This is what you all said. You want those R4C areas to be transitioned, and if transition is going to allow hotels, and as Brett Leonard said, that would allow short-term rentals, this is where we're headed. So I know this is off for editing to the consultants and staff, but this has not been well addressed at this point in time, so I hope
I'm sorry,
you really consider.
your time has
What?
elapsed.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of hands have been rolling in. We have one more from Adam Jiskevich. You have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, Adam Jiskevich here, 1430 Las Vegas Drive in the 4th Ward. I just want to add on to the question that Lisa Jevons asked earlier. I got one of these mailings as well, but I have kind of a related question to hers. When planning sends out postcards about various developments and things like that, other kinds of mailings that are sent out to us, how successful are those at engaging renters? Because I've heard some of these mailings often get returned to sender, particularly when they're sent to residents in multifamily buildings. So I'd like to hear an answer to that. Is that something that we've seen? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other callers?
I do not see other hands raised at this time.
Okay, got a few more minutes.
I'm sorry, there was just another hand raised as I said that.
Okay, great.
Phone number ending in 644, you have permission to address the Planning Commission for 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Kathy Boris. I live at 1726 Charlton in the 5th Ward, and I also want to hear the answer to the question that Lisa Jevons asked. And I'd also like to hear the answer to the person who just spoke before me now. So if Planning Commission could answer those two questions at some time later in the meeting or after public comment is over, I'd really like to hear the answers to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other callers?
Phone number ending in 464, you have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Linda Brower. I live on the 5th Ward. And I wasn't going to call in, but I am calling in because I got inspired by Ken Garber's comments. And I really, really want to encourage you to take what he said very, very seriously. I am very concerned that this Planning Commission only has one route to affordability besides the housing millage, which the voters very generously approved and I supported, and that's wonderful, but we all know that's not enough. And I'm concerned that this planning commission has tunnel vision when it comes to routes to affordable housing, and it's density, 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 and, you know, that's debatable. And if it's going to happen, it'll be decades, okay? So we need other routes. And I think Ken's suggestion of, you know, electricity is the future. We don't need to incentivize that so much anymore, but we do need to incentivize affordability. And I know that at least one of you thinks it's unseemly, I believe that's the exact word, unseemly to ask developers to do anything extra for the community, but I think it's absolutely essential. And I think if they want to build that high, they need to do something that's really going to make a contribution to the community in terms of affordable housing. And I really encourage you to recommend that to City Council. And thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you. Manager Kelly?
It would appear that was the last caller.
Okay, we'll give it just a few more seconds. Okay, with that, we will close public comment. We're going to move on to public hearings scheduled for the next business meeting. Manager Kelly?
There are currently no public hearings scheduled for the next meeting. As I mentioned, you will be hearing a series of presentations related to the comprehensive plan.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, that takes us to item 8A, unfinished business, which there are none. So that takes us right to section 9A. This is 303 Detroit Street. This is a proposed plan to convert 303 Detroit Street from an office retail building to a residential building with 16 units by adding approximately 10,000 square feet. Construction includes building an additional floor on top of existing buildings, adding balconies, and creating a parking garage in the basement, accessed by a rotating automobile elevator from a new driveway off of North 4th Avenue, and the site is zoned D2, Downtown Interface-based zoning district, Carytown Character Overlay District, and Secondary Street type designation. We're going to go to the presenters. We have Mr. Kopp from MAVD, as well as Mark Roeder, and we have also virtual with us, Tom Fitzsimmons and Kathy Caneth. So we will go to your presentation first, and then we'll go to staff.
Great. Good evening. I might need some IT help to run the presentation, or do you run that?
Yes, we did ask for that in advance for this reason. If we could just take a quick break, Mr. Chair, to...
Yes. We will take 1 minute. Thank you. We'll be right back.
We're at 2723 South State Street. We're the property owner and the co-developer of the project. Mark Roeder from Roeder and Associates is the architect that will be co-presenting with me. And I think remotely we should have Tom Fitzsimmons from Huron Contracting. He's the builder and co-developer as well. Kathy Kyneth is from Macon Engineering, and she's a civil engineer. So hopefully we have everybody that you need to ask questions. We agree with the staff report and the conclusions, recommendations, so I think our presentation is going to be quick. We only have 5 slides, just to give you some context, so we all are talking about the same thing. This is just an overview of kind of the location. In red is 303 Detroit Street. There's a lot going on in this neighborhood, as you all know, because most of it's come through you. So we've been in contact with all of the neighbors on a regular basis. So I just want to run through that just so that you know that we're trying to minimize the impacts on the neighborhood. So the project directly across Detroit Street is our project as well, 330 Detroit Street. We tried to name them as confusing as we could for our own internal discussions. That's a 5-story building, just like this one is proposed to be. That one is nearing completion. We expect to have that done by the end of the year. As you probably remember, we work closely with both the farmers market and Phyllis at the filling station to try to not impact Detroit Street. We moved the staging onto Fifth Avenue. We expect to be done with that by the end of the year. So I'm in regular contact with Phyllis. I talk to her probably once a week. She has my cell phone. I would say she's not happy with any construction, as any neighbor would be, but I don't think she's here remotely, but I think she would say we've been very responsive to her concerns. I would hope she would say that. So that's one project on one side. Obviously, on the other side is Dunbar Tower. We've been in contact with Wendy Carty-Saxon at the Avalon Housing and the O'Neill people. They have one lane closed there on 4th Avenue. They expect to be in that building the first quarter of next year, so that will come down sometime probably early next year. Also talked with Micah and the team at Braun Court. They're obviously on a very similar timeline to us. Won't be closing, as I understand, any of 4th Avenue and be working from the rear. All of this brings us to the farmers market, who I've talked with several times, met with Remy Long and Adam, who's the project manager of that project, and we think we've reached a verbal agreement to use some of that unused space between our buildings, between our properties, as staging so that we won't have to close any of 4th Avenue, which obviously is very important to the farmers market, nor lose any parking associated with it. So anyway, we've tried to be very responsive in minimizing the impact to the neighborhood. I think that's pretty much that. Oh, and just to back up again contextually, Dunbar Tower, 6 stories, Braun Court, 7 stories, we're 5 stories. This is the existing building. MAVD has owned this building since 1988. The first view on the left is essentially from the Braun Court site. The building on the right is the old White Swan building. We added the addition on the left in 1988, 1989. And then the view from on the right is from the filling station. Again, the White Swan building on the left in this case, and the building we added on the right. We plan, and I'll let Mark go through kind of the elevations here next, but we essentially plan to keep the footprint largely intact with some small modifications on the left photo and the front left, and add a couple of stories to bring it up to the 5-story limit.
I'm going to have you go back, I think. To that
Okay.
piece.
This one?
Yes, yeah. Good evening. When we were designing 330 next door, the Flatiron building, we call it, we wanted to pick up on the details in this building that Frederick Herman had designed. So we have a long concrete plinth along that side of the building, and other details on that building. Now we have the opposite situation where we're moving across the street and renovating this building from office space into residential. Now, one of the first things that I thought about that we really needed to do was to maintain those sunken gardens and that open space alongside Detroit Street, because that really sets the feel and the character for that whole neighborhood, I think, there. So our proposal does not include, if you were to look at that slide there with the silo, doesn't require any change to the silo there. The old White Swan building, or the Agricultural Hall as it was originally called in the 1850s, had extensive renovations done over the years. In the 1940s, all the windows were enlarged, and they were replaced with aluminum windows. The original sash was all gone. The loading docks and doors and canopy around was replaced and removed. The parapet was raised, so that building has had extensive repairs. We are proposing to remove those contemporary windows and replace those with windows more in character with a traditional historic building. So that appears in the renderings, and it doesn't appear here. Now, the other item that is going to stay is that curtain wall system, although you may notice there's going to be extensive renovation of that, and some of these components will need to be removed. For example, the glazing is failing. It's been almost 40 years that that building has been there. So even though it looks like a brand new building, it's had 40 years of wear and tear on the glazing seals, the glazing, the curtain wall system. So as construction proceeds, it may look like we're kind of demolishing the building, but we're taking things down, repairing them or replacing them and putting back again. Let's see. When this building was renovated in 1988, 89, extensive foundation repairs by Darvis were done to the building. So, and the concrete building that was done was a very robust structure, and it also benefits from the fact that we're in a sort of glacial outwash plain with a lot of sand and gravel, so our bearing capacity is tremendous under both of these buildings. So they have been beefed up structurally, so they're able to take an additional floor load, and that's kind of why we're proposing that, partly because we did not want to take up any of the space in the front for any kind of additions, even though we could have done that. So that really is our design approach to how we approach this building, and if there are any questions later, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We are going to move on to staff presentation.
Thank you. And thank you to our presenters. I am presenting this on behalf of my colleague, Julia Shake, so I'll do my best to pull out some of the things that she mentioned in the staff report. As mentioned, this is a conversion of an existing building, so the footprint is remaining much the same. They're adding an extra floor to the top and then some balconies. There will be also, kind of fun, a carousel elevator parking system. There'll be integrated electric vehicle charging systems and a new driveway from North 4th Street to access that. In terms of sustainability, the residences will be created in an existing building, reducing the carbon necessary for new concrete and steel foundations, structural systems, brick, and other energy-intensive building materials. And the existing geothermal building system will be reused and combined with new electric heat pumps for lower energy use. As I mentioned, there will be electric vehicle installed parking spaces. There will be bicycle parking, 39 Class A and 1 Class C bike parking spaces. And then the project will reconstruct the pedestrian infrastructure along North 4th Street, Catherine Street, and Detroit Street. In terms of the development review, there are a few instances, like in the street wall height in the massing articulation, where they don't meet the existing character overlay zoning districts, but that's fine because the existing building was built before that December 26, 2009 date as specified in the code. The project did go to the design review board, which is why there's no additional staff design review with the new changes to the design review board system. It went in October of 2024. And then just another note, as the applicant said, they have been in touch with the Parks and Recreation Department about coordinating for the market. Additionally, the Transportation Division of City staff requested minimizing some of the negative impacts of the dumpsters on pedestrian visibility in the right-of-way through some mitigation measures that are noted in the staff report, and Transportation acknowledges that some of their aims conflict with standards and requirements for other units of the city, such as solid waste, and a draft development agreement is currently in progress for a voluntary parks contribution of $10,000 for improvements to nearby and community-wide parks. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to public hearing. This is an opportunity for citizens and individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those present and then remote participants. To speak remotely, please press star 9 if on the phone or use the raise hand feature on Zoom. And for phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name on Zoom. You'll hear an automated announcement when it's your turn to speak, and please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noises so we can hear you clearly. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of the comments. Is there anyone present that would like to speak at this time?
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you very much. I'm Lisa Young. I live at 816 3rd Street, and I'm actually here tonight as the current chair of the Public Market Advisory Commission, or PMAC. PMAC serves to advise the mayor and city council, Parks Advisory Commission, and the market manager regarding issues related to the operation of the farmers market. And as has been acknowledged here tonight, and as you all know, there's been a lot of construction around the farmers market. It's all exciting, but when those construction projects happen at the same time, it creates a lot of chaos for the farmers market. Both the 330 Detroit condominiums and Dunbar Tower have resulted in street closures, which have made access to the market difficult for both vendors and consumers, and as already been acknowledged, exacerbates the continual parking problems at the market. And though I appreciate that the developers have been talking to the folks in parks, I just want to acknowledge that last summer during the initial phases of the 330 Detroit Street construction, the welding noise on some Wednesday markets made it impossible to communicate with vendors, and I was there for several of those. So what I've learned from watching these 2 construction projects over the last couple of years is that communication, not only with the park staff, but also with the market manager and the market staff, is really critical. And the Dunbar Tower team has done an absolutely excellent job doing that. And the initial phases of construction of 330 Detroit Street were greatly improved when there was a city staff member that helped facilitate the communications and logistics, especially with the market manager. So with the approval of the Braun Court project and the proposed expansion of 303 Detroit Street building, the members of PMAC are deeply concerned about the ways these projects will impact the farmers market, especially if they are happening at the same time. So we request that the Planning Commission really encourage this coordination between the developers and the city to not only at the higher levels, but at those day-to-day levels when there's the markets are happening, so that there can be communication with the market manager and the staff to help vendors figure out how to unload when there's street closures. And I'm also really worried at how close the properties are in terms of safety when the upper stories are happening at the 303 project. So basically what we're asking is for the developers to be good neighbors, and especially during market days. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other folks that would like to speak at this time? Mr. Garber.
Thanks, Chair Lee. Ken Garber again. Yeah, it's quite remarkable how the farmers market is literally surrounded by new developments all happening roughly at the same time. So I sympathize with Ms. Young's concerns about minimizing impact on the farmers market operations. I go there every Saturday and often on Wednesday. About 303 Detroit, I used to work in the White Swan building, so I'm really glad to see a conversion to residential rather than, a demolition rebuild and preserving that historic building, and it sounds like enhancing it with windows and other features. 13 parking spaces for 16 units seems reasonable. Not everyone has given up cars like I have, so I recognize that. Especially since this revolving parking carousel keeps the parking footprint down. Very curious about how that works. Ms. Mellon Corcoran, is it? Stated, thank you for the report, stated that the existing geothermal building system will be reused and combined with new electric heat pumps for lower energy use. So a question about that. That sounds great. But I recall that the geothermal wells are located across the street at the 330 building, now nearing completion. And I think I remember cornering Mr. Kopp in the hallway outside a Brownfield Authority meeting, and he told me that they are preserving those wells through all that construction, but that they're not enough to heat both buildings, and that they won't be used to heat 330, but they will be, as Ms. Mellon Corcoran said, be repurposed or refurbished for the 303 building. Boy, it's really hard to get used to those two addresses. So my question is, what proportion of 303 Detroit Street's heating needs will be served by the wells and the new heat pumps? Is it 100%? Or will gas furnaces or boilers also be part of this development to supplement the geothermal? Also, will there be any roof photovoltaics for electricity generation? So on the overall, it seems like a really great project. Redevelopment of an existing building, not excessive parking, but I'm wondering about geothermal capacity, fossil gas use, and plans for solar, if any.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Do we have anyone else present that would like to speak at this time? Okay. Seeing none, do we have any remote callers?
2 callers. The first is Greg Monroe. You have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Greg Monroe, I see that you lowered your hand. If you would like to speak again, please raise your hand. We cannot hear you. Our next raised hand is phone number ending in 534. You have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Good evening again. This is Tom Stolberg. I'll be very brief. I'm really happy to see this adaptive reuse infill development, taking advantage of not demolishing a structure, and the greenest structure is the one that you don't demolish. Thank you very much for bringing this project to us. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Stolberg. Has Mr. Monroe re-raised his hand?
No, that has not happened.
Do we have any other callers?
There are no other callers at this time.
Okay. Is it 2 more seconds?
That hand did just raise again.
Okay.
Okay, one more time. You have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Yes, *9 or use. It sounds like it's on Zoom. Please try to unmute yourself if you can. We still can't hear ya.
No, this person is not joining by phone. They are joining by Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
and they have fallen off again totally from the Zoom call.
Okay.
So
All right. Do we have any other callers on the line?
we do not.
Okay. 2 more seconds. Okay. With that, we'll close public comment. All right. I'm going to read off the proposed motion here. This is that the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission approves the 303 Detroit Street Site Plan version 4 dated May 5th, 2025, and recommends approval of the development agreement for a parks contribution in the amount of $10,000. So we are going into discussion. Would anyone like to kick us off? Oh, I'm sorry? Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I need a move. Yes, Commissioner White, I need a second. Commissioner Weatherby, thank you. All right, we are in discussion. Anyone? Okay, Commissioner Abrams.
I'd love to give the petitioner a chance to answer some of the questions that Mr. Garber raised about geothermal capacity, solar panels, and natural gas connection. So whomever from your team you think is best suited to answer that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Greg Kopp again with MAVD. So Mr. Garber has a great memory, maybe better than mine. So when we came before you for the 330, there were 11 wells, 600 feet deep wells underneath that what was a parking lot there. They were installed 2010, 2012, probably one of the first geothermal systems, certainly in the city, that we did as a kind of a trial thing. Fed the building across the street. We have an easement from the city to go underneath Detroit Street with the piping, and we heated and cooled maybe 30% of that building with that system at that time. At that meeting, we hadn't done the MEP design yet, and I committed to the commission and Mr. Garber that we would pursue keeping those wells. That was the intent, but construction is construction, right? And I wasn't sure what would happen. We did lose one of those wells in the process, so we have 10 wells now. They are currently heating and cooling a portion of the building. And our intent is to use them to the extent that we can on this building. So again, we just kicked off, hired an MEP firm last week, gave them that direction. But as you all know, that takes months to get through that design. And I can't tell you today how much of it we're going to use, but that's the intent. There's a substantial investment in that, in those wells that we'd like to reuse, but it's nowhere near enough to heat and cool the building. And the limit with geothermal, again, you guys know this probably even better than I do, is typically on the cooling side, or I'm sorry, the limit is on the heating side, right? So we have enough to cool it. It's supplementing on the heating side. And to answer the question about gas, there is a gas connection to the building. We're going to keep the gas connection. We're going to have a natural gas generator. Beyond that, again, we haven't done the design. I don't know what we're going to do. Historically, we've used, or Tom has used heat pumps to heat and cool the spaces with some supplemental gas heat for the cold weather months. We will, at a minimum, make it solar ready on the roof. As to whether we're going to put solar panels up there or not, we haven't figured it out because these are going to be for sale units, and so then you got to figure out who gets the solar and who doesn't, kind of things. But we will prep it for that, and all the car spaces will have EV chargers. They won't be EV ready. They'll have full chargers. That answer the question?
Yep, thanks.
All right.
Can I respond to the farmer's market one too?
I'll ask it.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Give us just a second. Thanks,
Sure.
Mr. Kopp. Yeah, Commissioner
No,
White.
you can stay.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to get a better answer on Mr. Garber's question. So you stated that currently the building is only being supported by those wells at 30%, but you don't know what your plan is. You want to maintain that, but you can't commit to anything greater than what it's currently doing since one just went offline. So I just wanted to make sure that I heard you correctly with that.
I can't remember exactly the BTU capacity, but there's not enough to heat and cool more than 30-ish% of the building.
Okay.
That's the goal, is to try to use it, at least for the common areas and maybe some of the units, but we haven't even gotten into that design. There's some space limitations and some other things that the mechanical engineer needs to work through.
And these are for-sale units, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And so then my question, and then I'll pose the question from the audience about the farmer's market,
Okay.
so you can answer that, was about the sunken garden, because I remember there was a restaurant that was down there at one point, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so what's the plan for that, and how are you planning to activate that space?
So there'll be units in the basement that will share that.
okay.
So it'll be outdoor space for
For the residents, then? Okay. And then on to the farmer's market, because you are right, there's a lot of construction there. It's a very tight little space between your building and what was the farmer's market building, which I think has now been
It's down,
removed.
yep.
Yeah, I was just there today, so I think it's completely gone. Yeah, so the question that came from the audience was, or excuse me, from the participants, citizen participants, were around how you plan to, on market days, deal with issues related to construction that may impede the market.
Yeah, and it, Ms. Young? Is that right? Yeah, so I've also been in contact with Stephanie on a regular basis, has my information. It's a harder issue, quite frankly, because not only, I mean, we can't control when we weld, we can't control when we run a pile driver or whatever, right? I mean, construction has to move at a certain pace, and so we are cognizant of, particularly Wednesday market days. We try to minimize the work on Saturdays for a whole host of reasons, including the farmer's market being there, but Wednesdays tend to be really problematic when they run from May to September, I think it is, or October. So one of the big challenges we've had is that, and we've suggested this to many people, is that those parking spaces at the north end of, if I can just move this back, at the north end of Detroit Street, that's where the vendors like to get there and load early. And on normal days, when there's not construction, they get there early because nobody gets there early. Well, you know who else gets there early? Construction guys. And they're public parking spaces. So it's really hard for me to get down the chain of command and say, you can use these public spaces, but you can't use those public spaces, right? And so if there's some way with the parking people to make those loading for farmers market only on market days or whatever, that solves the problem, right? But instead, what tended to happen was, your guys are parking here, we had to ask them to move, they say, why do I have to move? It's a public space. It just gets problematic. So again, I'm glad to work with one person at the farmers market, whoever that may be, and they can call me, and we've scrambled to move people, but I think there's a larger way to fix that too.
Is this something that staff can help with? Because it certainly fills out a scope for us to set off public parking, but it feels like that might be a nice coordination.
Yeah, the planning department has assisted to the greatest extent asked for, and possible, I've checked in with Stephanie Stuffer as the market manager, so when they're referencing Stephanie, that's the Parks and Recreation Department market manager. And I, at the request of some staff in that department, started to engage with Ms. Stoffer and some other folks maybe the middle of last year, and connected them with the Downtown Development Authority to discuss parking management specifically, put them in touch with specific inspectors in engineering for other types of construction behavior that they had concerns about or questions about and wanted to have quick communication on. Basically a wide variety of staff, transportation, engineering, anyone that they were not already aware of or in touch with on a first name basis. We made that connection. And then I followed up several times just to say, do you have everything that you need? Are you getting what you need? And the answer was, we're okay for now. So I don't think that is enough. I mentioned this when we were discussing the Braun Court development, that it's an area of concern for staff, the market vitality. I don't think that I think there's more to be done, but it's just an evolving situation. In terms of the parking specifically, the best person to address that would be Ms. Stouffer in coordination with the DDA.
So I did have another question. It was about the solid waste. So just for my edification, how are you all handling the solid waste?
So we'll have janitorial people, just like we're proposing across the street,
Okay.
that will come through the building, and then they'll take out the dumpsters on trash days.
And those
put
are
it back
two,
in.
what size of the dumpsters are those?
I think they're similar to, I mean, if you look in this photo on the left.
They're the cart size?
I think so. I don't know, Kathy might.
4-yard maybe?
Kathy can probably correct me if she's online, but same location for sure.
So will that, in light of Commissioner Dish's absence, will that also allow the owners to compost? Does that work here?
I don't know the answer to that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, this is Kathy Kyneth with Macon Engineering. The dumpsters are 2 cubic yard dumpsters that are supplied by the city, by solid waste. And at this time, there is no compost collection to this site downtown. So we haven't provided for composting.
So that means the city is not providing service to pick it up?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Okay, I think those were my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have we'll go to Commissioner Weatherby.
This one is one just because I'm curious. Do you have any more information on how the parking situation works? Like, I assume it's going to be right off that, where kind of the green glass is now?
Yeah, essentially where the opening is there now, the existing curb cut is really just for dumpsters. That's where the solid waste is stored, but that will be an opening with a garage door. There'll be a small area in there, be essentially a garage with a turntable. So they'll drive in, the turntable will move them into there's an ADA space there, and then there's a carousel. And the carousel, it's essentially a merry-go-round for cars, but it's more O-shaped, right? So it just occupies the space of 2 parking spaces, and then it rotates around to the open space. So it's surprisingly energy efficient. It's like a 20 horsepower motor, which is a small elevator motor, very quiet. Tom and I actually went down and tested one down in Pittsburgh, and it's really pretty simple. It sounds more complicated than it is.
And the cars will always be facing forward when they come out?
So, yeah, right, I should have pointed that out too. So they'll drive in, they back out onto that turntable will turn them around, and they pull out face first.
Because just there is a lot of, I mean, A, that's really cool, but also there is a lot of a lot of pedestrians there at certain times, and having people back out.
Yeah, no, they won't.
Problematic.
That's the whole purpose of the turntable, is so that they will come out front face. And, the challenge with this site is there's really no back to it.
Yeah.
So we consciously picked this part because you're right, there's a lot of pedestrians, but nowhere near what there are on Detroit Street, especially on a market day.
Right.
So it certainly wouldn't work on Detroit Street.
Okay, that's cool. It's a nice option. I've seen it in other places, but I don't know if we have any here. The other thing this is just sort of a statement, is, working as closely as possible with the market, and it sort of doesn't matter who's right or whose responsibility it is. If the market doesn't succeed, that's going to be really bad for your buildings. So I do think we are at a point where the market is both really vibrant and also in trouble. And so I think this is kind of a call to everyone, go to the market. It's open on Wednesday and on Saturday. But also, if, there is structured parking very close by, 2 blocks. There is a lot of, but that's not what people are used to doing. And the construction is really tough on people. And I know I've heard a lot of people I used to go, but I don't go anymore because it's too much of a pain. And we really don't want to get in that situation. So like as much as you can do to prevent people from feeling that way for another 2 years. And I know it's not just you, there's a lot of construction going on, but it's one of those things like it's just in everybody's best interest to make it as workable as possible.
Yeah, one of the things I shared with Remy is a video of me at the market in 1966. So I'm a longtime patron of the market. I understand what you're saying. And I just say the same thing to Stephanie and Ms. Young that I said to Phyllis, is I go, there are going to be days you don't like me because things happen, but I'll tell you, I'll pick up the phone and we'll try to make it right? I can't control all those individual people's actions before they do things, but we'll fix it after. Right.
Commissioner Mills.
Following up on kind of what can be done and the parking, particularly on the market days, and the solution that you suggested, this or things of that ilk, I don't know if it's possible, but because it involves collaboration with city department and because we have a development agreement anyway, I think to the extent to which that can be included would be real helpful. I think, again, that there's something to go back to that was like, we talked about doing this on the parking, for example, on market days. We haven't seen that. That's not part of our packet. That's not really our purview, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if that's an option or a way to kind of put teeth into it, but I feel like you want this to be successful. Everybody wants this to be successful. So that might just be a mechanism for that. I'm glad that you asked about the turntable because I was curious too. And I'm trying to figure out from the site plan also how the bicycle parking works. And if there's currently bicycle parking in that location in this building, or like if it feels like it's in the basement, and it looks like it's going down a half set of stairs. How many doors are we going through? And again, I as a cyclist, like, I want bike rooms to be successful. And this is a prime real estate place, right? And it would be a shame to devote a whole bunch of space to it if it's not going to get used. So I'm just curious about what that experience is going to be like and what those stairs are like and how people are going to navigate the door with the bicycle, or if there's another way that residents are getting into that big, lovely bike room.
So I think the plan is to have their individual storage rooms for the residents that will be large enough to house a bike, I think. I don't know and there'll just be a door, I think, into that main storage room. But I don't know if is that correct? Yeah. So
what I'm looking at is on the ground floor that those are all like individual storage units, and they can choose to store a bike or they can choose to store their Halloween decorations or whatever it is that they.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. I would suggest, there's the door to get into it, and then from the outside, again, if they're going to store a bike, they're going to want to use it. And maybe it's a fancy bike that they lock away every night, or like otherwise for a quick trip, it's going to get parked out on the street, right, like on a hoop, which there are those lovely carrot hoops, actually, quite lovely. And I want them to get used. And also, again, I'm just thinking about how people will access it. So is there another way from the street to get into these storage locker areas?
I think they can get out through the overhead door too, right? Right. Yeah, through the garage. There's a overhead door, the same door the cars would come through. They can get out that way too.
Okay, and does that require, they can, again, I'm looking at the site plan. I'm on page 14 of what was submitted. I can't see where they get from that ground level. Do they have to go up the two? How are they getting there?
The basement with maybe Mark remembers better off the top of his head. It's a half flight down
Yeah.
from that level. So
Yeah.
there's a half flight of stairs, I think, right there too. I'm sorry, I don't have the plans in front of me or memorized.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I see the garage area. I don't see where there is an opening from the garage area to the storage lockers area.
Yeah,
And that would be convenient to come out through that garage, because I'm assuming that you go down a little bit. Is that how it works? Or again, yeah,
from
how's
the
that?
entrance, there'd be a half flight down and a half flight down, up. But yeah, I don't know
Which
the
is
answer
no
to
more,
that off the top of my head,
it's
sorry.
no more convenient than coming out like a door.
So essentially, it's either a ramp access or elevator access from this level here up to the next level and then in. So you take your bike in through an elevator.
Yeah.
Like I take it up your room.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's not direct from the garage down to the bike storage, but there is through the elevator.
So like you would do in an apartment building, a lot of people do, you take your bike in, the elevator is a 3,500-pound elevator, which means it's suitable for a stretcher. So it's pretty big. And you could get two bikes in there. So you would pull in through the overhead door, you'd have your phone could actuate these doors.
Yeah.
And you would pull into the elevator. It's got openings on two sides. Get your bike in there and go up to that storage level and then in through a door into the bicycle storage area.
Got it. So from the garage area, I'm seeing that there's like a north-facing door that you go into the new lobby, and that's with the elevator that we're talking about that they would take down. Like they're going to enter the garage, go south to the new lobby, and that's the elevator?
Yes.
Okay.
Which has doors on both sides.
Which has doors on both sides, yeah. And then when they go, they're going to go down the level to
Right.
the storage rooms.
Go in
Yeah.
one door, up, and then go out that door.
Yeah, okay. I don't know that it'll be used. Not gonna be, like, I mean, maybe some people will, I don't think on a day-to-day basis, and so, like, I think that this is fine for bicycle storage. In terms of access, I mean, I think it meets our code, so I don't, but as we have been thinking about the location of our bike rooms and kind of how accessible they are, I would put this in one where like, it absolutely meets the code. I don't know that it meets the intent of how we are thinking about bike storage for residential facilities necessarily. But I also think that this is a place that is going to be highly walkable, and I hope that they don't pull their car out too often and instead, like, I don't know. Thank you for helping me understand how that is. You don't have a bike room in there now. Probably not, right?
No.
It wouldn't have been required if this building,
No,
I cannot believe that building's 40 years old. It does not look that old.
Right. But
Well, thank you.
when you look at it.
It is worn, weathered very well.
I mean, I think there are people that have used bikes, but they take them to their
Offices, yeah.
through the, up the stairs or through the elevator. There's no dedicated bike room there in the building
Okay,
now.
yeah. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other commissioners with comments? Oh, yes, Commissioner Weatherby.
I know I said it, I talked before, but I do want to say, I love this project. I think it's great. It's a way of adding to the housing stock in a great location, and it's pretty exciting, so, in addition to all the other things.
Thank you. Yeah, from my standpoint, or Commissioner Norton, anything to add? Okay. I think a lot of folks asked the questions that I was planning to ask. One thing I wanted just clarification, you said PV ready, like photovoltaic ready for the roof. Like, do you just mean putting conduits and kind of like the structural that's necessary? What extent do you think you'll take it to?
Yeah, so we'll, just like, again, across the street, we're going to make sure that we have conduits up to the space, because that, as you know, tends to be a challenge after the fact, if you don't think of it ahead of time, and then just make sure that the structure is capable of supporting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. The one thought that I had just on the geothermal side, if I just, I want to make sure I understand correctly as well. So generally you have a vertical loop here. It's kind of got this glycol mixture. And effectively, if you're cooling something, you're going to generate heat. So you're basically connecting it at the heat exchanger to send that heat down through the loop so that it dissipates on a geothermal basis. And so regardless of whether it's 100% covering or not, like I think it still makes the system a lot more efficient. And so from my standpoint, I think just it's sorry to hear that one of the wells failed, unfortunately. That's actually been my question about if this is 600 feet deep. That's it's a lot of stories. 12 feet is about the average story. So, so all of that said, I think it's great that we're going to be using that. I've always thought that having some kind of a geothermal grid would be great to be able to coordinate between different types of uses. Hotels, commercial requires cooling. Resi generally needs heating. So overall, I think that's great. As far as I think staff did a great job in the review chart, height, 60 feet, articulation, existing construction before '09, setbacks, everything seems to comply, 13 EV installed, better than what we actually require. So by that, I'm supportive of the overall project. So any other thoughts before we move to a formal vote? And please do note, this requires a development agreement, which generally gets approved at the city council. However, the site plan approval is here. So this is the motion to approve with the development agreement that advances the council for although I don't see them saying no to $10,000, but okay. Let's move to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Norton.
Yes.
Commissioner Weatherby.
Yes.
Commissioner Mills.
Yes.
Commissioner Abrams.
Yes.
Commissioner Weish.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
That carries.
All right. Good luck with the construction. And please do try to coordinate commercially reasonable efforts to support our market.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, please take care. All right. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item number B. This is the 630 South Ashley Street site plan for Planning Commission approval. This is a proposed site plan to construct 2 single-family homes with a garage between them, plus a detached garage with a second-story residential unit. The former Armin's Cleaner site is 0.17 acres, currently vacant, as is currently in the C2B Business Service District. And then also the Old West Side Historic District. The project has received Historic District Commission approval and variances from the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals. With that, we have presenters, Mark Reuter, and actually a very similar team that we just heard from. So, and then also with Ms. Kaneth from McCon Engineering. So we'll go with petitioner presentation. Welcome back.
I am Mark Reuter here again. And Kathy Kyneth is also the engineer on this project. And if there are site plan questions, I hope she's available, as she said she would be. So we'll address any of those site-specific engineering site planning issues to her. I don't have any slide presentation tonight, but this is a building that we've been working on for almost 3 years. From the start of when the site was starting to be cleaned up by the state, we started working with the Historic District Commission to decide what should go on here. So we had 2 or 3 different scenarios for densities. We looked at 4 stories, we looked at 4 units, which meant parking underneath the building, which raised it. So these sort of iterations with the Historic District Commission seem to not fit their ideas about what this neighborhood should be and wanted lower density. So we came up with a solution in which we basically have a duplex, and one of those housing units has an ADU above the garage attached to it. So the dwelling units are separated by a garage, which makes for great acoustic separation, and the ADU is quite a ways off to the side of that. So the ADU is a nice-sized unit, one bedroom, about 535 square feet, and it will belong to the unit that is closest to the south there. And the other unit, they're both roughly 2,600 square feet apiece. The ADU is 535 square feet. One of the things on the site plan that I looked at doing is, and we've been doing housing in the Old West Side for more years than I want to say, but over many projects. And when we do garages, we find out that if it's a one-car garage, there are no cars. In the one-car garage, there are bikes and strollers and all kinds of household stuff. So we sort of envisioned in this project with a two-car garage, there may be no cars there. There may be one car in that garage, and the other side will be bikes and strollers and all kinds of other things. So that's why I've decided I wanted to narrow the impact of the driveway curb cuts. So that's why the curb cuts are narrowed at the street. And they are, I can't remember exactly, but they're about 13 feet wide, something like that, I think. So that they're not a full 22 feet wide that would be required if you were backing two cars out of there. So that reduces the auto impact on the street. Just wanted to point that out. The other thing, when this was Armin's Cleaners, they basically had paved the entire site except for a small branched area, so the impervious area was very, very little. And we're ending up here with, can't remember, maybe Kathy remembers what the ground coverage was here. If you're interested, she could chime in on that. But we've drastically reduced the impermeable area on this site from what it used to be. But yet we're still taking care of the stormwater, and the discharge from the sump pumps will be handled on site. So that has been taken care of, and the buildings are, we started to design a kind of a commercial style building, which is flat roofed and kind of in keeping with the commercial buildings on the south side of the street and the large apartment building to the east. So that it has more of a commercial feel, but yet it has the scale and character of a residential neighborhood. And when you look at a part of our presentation where we have superimposed a site plan on the neighborhood, it's pretty obvious that it's quite a small development compared to the houses around it. So that's basically our approach on this project. And if you have, I'll be here to answer any other questions. And if you have engineering questions, we will get Kathy to answer those.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. With that, we were going to staff presentation with City Planner Melon Corcoran.
Thank you, and thank you to the petitioner. So this is a site at the corner of South Ashley Street and West Mosley Street. As mentioned, it is currently vacant because it was previously the site of Armin Cleaners. The demolition of that building was approved by the Historic District Commission in 2021, and since then the state has done environmental contamination remediation on site. As mentioned, there are 3 new residential units and 2 garages on site, 2 single-family homes that will front Ashley Street, and then a garage with a second-story unit fronting Mosley Street. There will be the existing curb cuts. There's one on Mosley and one on Ashley, and they'll be shifted a little bit to accommodate these garages. It is in the Old West Side Historic District, and the Historic District Commission granted a certificate of appropriateness in October of 2024. The project also went to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the rear setback and required buffer, because even though this is a residential use, it's C2B business district zoning and adjacent a residential use, it does require extra buffer, but those variances were granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. In terms of sustainability, per the applicant's sustainability statement, there are no additional sustainability measures included beyond the code requirements like stormwater management. And a note from our stormwater reviewer, the site stormwater and footing drain water is managed as directed by the Michigan Department of the Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, because of the concerns with the former contamination on site. There will be, I said, 2 garages. There will be electric vehicle capable and electric vehicle installed spaces. There's no dedicated bike parking. It'll be included in the garages, and that is fine with the zoning. And I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move on to public hearing. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes about this item. We'll first hear from those present and then remote participants. To speak remotely, please press *9 if on the phone or use the raise hand feature in Zoom. And for phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name on Zoom. You'll hear an automated announcement when it's your turn to speak, and please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noise so we can hear you clearly. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone who'd like to speak that's present here now? Hello, Mr. Garber.
My apologies.
Oh, that's no need to apologize.
I think I have some kind of autism spectrum disorder where I need your attention for a certain amount of hours a day. But in fact, I have not researched this project, but I'm aware it was a highly contaminated site, so I'm glad to see it repurposed after cleanup into residential use. I'm just heard from that there are no sustainability features beyond those required by code. Maybe I spoke too soon in my earlier comments about how we've won the electrification battle when we just heard that 303 Detroit is going to be using gas probably for most of that project, and presumably this one too. It's a small project. I'm not saying this is going to be the tipping point for the global climate, but every pound of CO2 helps. We've all got to, especially with new construction, these things are going to be emitting for decades. And so, air source electric heat pumps are pretty standard. The high efficiency ones work in our climate. That's been shown. You've heard it at this table multiple times. So I'd like to see more out of this development in that regard. Rooftop solar doesn't seem unreasonable. Again, new construction. Otherwise, it's discouraging that at this stage of the H2 plan, the climate crisis, people are still putting in fossil fuel infrastructure in buildings, new buildings. It's going to be a huge effort just to renovate and refit our existing housing stock and building stock, which we're going to have to do. It's not me talking, it's the climate science, it's the carbon budgets. Rich countries are really going to have to go not just to net zero, but to true zero by the middle of the next decade, really. I think, based on the data I've read, if we're going to have a livable climate. So not to put the whole onus on a tiny development like this, but I don't think it's too much to ask that they look into high performance heat pumps and some solar panels and get on board with this, because we all have to. We all have to take responsibility for this problem. That's my rant for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Do we have anyone else present that would like to speak at this time? Okay. Do we have any remote callers? Okay. I'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, with that, we're going to close public comment. We are going to move into the motion, which is that the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby approves the 630 South Ashley Street Site Plan, Revision 3, dated April 25th, 2025. Moved by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioner Mills. We're in discussion. Who'd like to kick us off? Commissioner Mills.
I'm curious for staff how this is a public hearing.
Yes.
That is because of the zoning. Even though it's single family, if it's not residential zoning, then it has to come to planning commission.
Okay.
Per the site plan table.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Weatherby.
Yeah, I'll just say, even though we shouldn't take up too much time on this, but this is the third time I voted on it as a member of the ZBA because it came to ZBA twice. And it is far better than what was there. And that's what I'm kind of trying to focus on. But it is a really good lesson for the comp plan of like, this is really constrained by our zoning and could be a lot more. And, decisions were made in the past on a lot of basis for, there's historic contamination, the historic district, there's our zoning. It just feels like we could do a lot with this empty site. There aren't a whole lot of empty sites. And I'm glad that there's going to be 3 dwelling units or 2 dwelling units and 1 ADU. But it just, to me, it's a little bit of like, like we could have, this is a site we could have had more, but hopefully this will be a good lesson.
Thank you. Do we have any other commissioners? Yeah, Commissioner Norton.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know if this is for you or for staff. I'm curious, was all of the contamination cleaned up or is there still some residual contamination there? Do you know?
As far as I know, it's all been cleaned up, and we've had our reviewers look at it, and reviewers from Eagle look at it and say that they can go forward with this. So I assume that means we're all good.
But they're still managing the stormwater because they're worried about maybe something showing up?
Yeah, they gave comments on the system, the stormwater system. So I guess precautionary.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. I think this one's pretty straightforward. I suppose the one question that I would have is to give credence to Mr. Garber's comments. Are there any sustainability thoughts with respect to this particular property? Or are you planning on using?
Excuse me, I didn't quite hear your question.
Sure. Could you let us know about what type of HVAC that you're planning, just based on the public comment?
What kind of HVAC?
HVA, like, are you guys planning on a heat pump, et cetera? It's just this doesn't impact the overall decision. This just is my curiosity.
The owner, who could not be here tonight, could better answer that as to why he's chosen this sort of system. I will point out that the new energy codes, we are designing the whole building based on the new energy codes, which are quite a lot improved over what they used to be. Yep. Our 60 ceilings versus our 40, insulation on the exterior sides of the walls, fully insulated basement, which might even be a EFIS or insulated concrete foundation system. They're beginning to compete now because of all the expense in doing other alternatives for basement insulation. So when you look at all of these, and plus the configuration that we have about an envelope to floor area ratio of 10 to 1, which is almost like a cube, or is a cube. A cube is 10 to 1. So you can't get anything more efficient for an envelope than what these buildings are sort of proposing. So when you look at that, the energy loss in this entire building will be quite low, and I think he's opted to go with a traditional HVAC systems for those reasons. We do have room on the roof for solar cells, and since these will be individually owned buildings, those owners will certainly have the opportunity to put them on top of the ADU or on top of each of their units. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but would be his response.
Got it. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to the vote. I'm going to reread the motion. This is the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby approves the 630 South Ashley Street site plan dated April 25th, 2025. Again, this is a site plan approval which ends here. So with that, we are going to roll call vote. Manager Kelly.
Commissioner Norton.
Yes.
Commissioner Weatherby.
Yes.
Commissioner Mills.
Yes.
Commissioner Abrams.
Yes.
Commissioner Weiss.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening. We're going to move right on to Section 9C. This is 625 Church Street. This is a proposed site plan to redevelop 621 Church Street, 625 and 633 Church Street, as well as 1207 Willard Street, plus an area extending over 616 South Forest to construct a 20-story apartment building. Approximately 180 units, 280,000 square feet of floor area, and 195 feet in height. Site is 16,052 square feet and is in D1 Downtown Core Base Zoning District. This is South University Character Overlay District and Secondary Street Type Designation. We have presenters, Brad Moore of Brad Moore Architects, Scott from Midwestern, as well as Andrew Savoy of Core Spaces, and John Hoffman from DLR. Welcome. All right. We'll start with the presentation from the petitioners, and then we'll go on to staff.
Might just need a moment, Mr. Chair, to arrange the presentation. If you'll give
Sounds
us
good.
a second.
We will take a 1-minute recess. Thank you.
Get a break.
All right, we're back. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Slight downgrade today from Andy Savoy. He wasn't able to make it. So I'm Joe Gatto from Core Spaces. This is our co-development partner, Jared Schenk with Schenk Plus. So we'll be presenting on behalf of the development company tonight. I did have the distinct pleasure of presenting in front of you all about a year and a half ago for 333 East Williams. So pleasure to be back and thankful for the opportunity to speak in front of you tonight.
And John.
I'm sorry. This is our distinguished architect from DLR Group, John Hoffman.
Pleasure to be here.
We're probably going to breeze through some of the about us. We're happy to answer any questions to the extent you'd like us to at the end. I think we've been up here a few times and just don't want to waste your time and those listening in. So a little bit about the site. It is 4 parcels bounded by Willard Street and Church Street. And there is a city-owned parcel that looks and feels like an alley, but is technically a city-owned parcel that is running through the middle of the block between University, Forest, Church, and Willard. So the site is highlighted in purple and white. And the white portion is distinctly colored because it is a air rights parcel. So we're actually buying the air rights over a city-owned parcel. City Council voted to approve that a few weeks back. And so, that is going to be incorporated into the building you're looking at here today. And might come back to that if necessary later. So just a little bit about the building. I think it was highlighted previously as well, but 19 stories, 195 feet tall, 198 units. Due to this impeccable location for the likely renters, we chose not to build any parking, which reduces curb cuts from, we'll get into how many, down to what we got it down to 0 effectively at a later slide. But also, it's going to be pretty cool architecture and a cool experience with a cantilevered building over that city-owned parcel and creating a pretty special alleyway in this part of the community. We expect to break ground near the end of this year, if not sooner. I think we put December 25th in here. 2025 may break ground even sooner than that, and delivering in time for the summer of 2028. Jared, you actually want to take this one?
So as Joe alluded to, we're reducing the number of curb cuts from 4 to, in essence, 1 with the city street running through. We're going to convert, really the roadway connecting Church to Forest. We really want it to be more of a pedestrian experience. We're working with the city on that. I think it's going to go curbless to make the feel as a flow through, the pedestrian flow through happens. And we think we're putting in 7 new street trees along the way. And we're improving, as you can see. It's really important to us to focus not just on Church, but it's carrying around Willard, which I lived on. This is now probably 30 years ago. But so it's a very near and dear to our hearts. Keep going.
Of course. So now we're getting into the building, and we're going to start from the bottom up. The basement level here will have roughly 7,000 square feet of retail, which will be accessible through 2 different stairwells and a dedicated elevator bank that will be accessible at the ground level off of Church Street and the alleyway, or the city-owned parcel that looks like an alleyway. I've been taught not to call it an alleyway because it's not. So
I'll do level 1.
Perfect.
All right, so level 1, you can see we focused on having a mid-block entry, which will be a great experience with a 2-story space coming into the entryway. We have amenities flanking closer to the Willard side. Again, there'll be a lot of street activation as you sort of feel the street. You're walking down there, you're not going to have sort of a blank wall experience. There's a lot of glass. And then the retail, as you see in the upper right quadrant, as I'm facing it on the public right-of-way. Trash collection is in the back. We've coordinated with our other users, and then part of the trash collection's on our property and also on the city-owned lot, city-owned parkway. And we have our bike room in the back quadrant. We have 2/3 of our bike spaces, which are easily accessible. I think we made it so you can basically get it off the ground, and
so that you could park it with 2 wheels on the ground.
2 wheels on the ground, so it's easier for people to not have to lift up. Mm-hmm. And then we have access along the back, so we're not. It gives them a better use experience coming off of Willard. They'll come down right by the garage and next to our property and access from that area. And
there'll be an automatic door opener there, located there, so it's going to be a very bike-centric, bike-focused entrance, and so you don't have to come through the lobby and intermingle with, people who are, lounging in the residential lobby.
And then we meant the opener for the bike room itself.
Yes, so. Yeah. Just a little bit more color, diagram on the bike room in particular, and I think Jared alluded to, effectively what this slide is saying and just showing in greater detail. This is the second level, which will be the top level of the street wall. So we're going 2 stories up with the street wall. And so when we see the renderings later, this is where, our brick expression is really, prominent, thank you, for that street wall. And so we have residential amenities along Church Street, and then also some residential units facing Church Street as well as Willard to the south, plan left. Just a typical floor as we go up. You can note how the building grows as the air rights now get picked up.
If you don't mind.
Of course.
So this is our top floor amenity space. We'll talk about it in a second, but we mentioned on the height of the building, 195 feet, we're taking advantage of a couple of bonuses. You'll see on the slide after this, actually when you flip to the next slide too, you'll see where our solar panels are. And so that we're complying with that to get the part of the height bonus. In addition, we're an all-electric building to follow that out, which gets us the full bonus up to 195. Going back a page, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so this is the experience you're walking through. Solar panels on top.
Yeah, and so we have our pool amenity up top, and we're trying to create an engaging environment. It's for the students not only on the first and second floor, but on the top floor, with obviously the residential component between.
Just a section cut and highlighting the bonuses taken and how the height bonuses are broken down. Now to the fun stuff. So this is the view facing our main entrance along Church Street. So effectively, cross street at the Pizza House, facing east. So this is a mid-block entrance, really prominent. You can see a ton of brick detailing with a lot of glazing. So we have some corbelling that goes up to the top of that street wall and wrapping around. So as you get a little closer, if I could zoom in, you can see a little bit better here. But that inspiration image in the lower right is how we came up with that. The middle entrance is a hotel-themed kind of lobby experience. When you're walking in, there's these big pivot doors that feel really big and heavy. It's really grandiose, feeling as you walk in, and we feel like, with the way it extends out over the extra wide sidewalk, will be a pretty cool experience as you're walking by, even if you don't live there. And so some of the inspiration images really kind of show you what that's going to look and feel in greater detail, like the wood look metal extrusion for that soffit of that lobby extension, and just some of the yeah, go ahead.
No, and add to one more thing, it's just that I really like the 2-story expression, because even though that's really 2 floors, it reads as sort of one space. And so I think we're managing height well, because these are big buildings, and so it's really important to engage the street in a way that's user-friendly. And we do that just along Church, and then again, as I mentioned before, it carries around to Willard.
Bringing some green walls into the lobby as well, but having a lot of glass you can kind of see and feel it, and gives it a cool experience when you can mix some of that in with architecture. So this is one of the views from the southwest corner of that Willard and Church intersection facing our building. We're really impressed with the DLR team and what they're able to accomplish for a 195-foot tall building. We think they did a great job breaking it up both vertically at that 3rd level where the street wall ends, as well as, we love the symmetry of the windows. Sometimes the alternating lines or alternating windows is something that an architect will push on you. And in practice, when we built those around the country, we're less impressed with them in person than in renderings a lot of times. And so we love that symmetrical window alignment, as well as the grid, if you can kind of see how it's picked up horizontally with some of those grid lines. So really happy with the team, and I think throughout the process it's been a really good collaboration to get us to this point. Just a better shot of that photo we had earlier with the inspiration images surrounding it, and you can really start to see that brick detailing on the vertical and squares around the windows of the 1st and 2nd floor.
I think as chair, I'm allowed to give you a few more minutes. Perfect. So yeah, if you want to go like 2-3 more minutes, yeah.
We're pretty much done. At the end, we want to just kind of highlight some of the most important public benefits. forgive me for just rattling off what's, I was taught in school never to do this, but I'm going to do it. Increasing the housing stock, increasing the tax base, creating permanent jobs as well as temporary construction jobs, all high paying and high quality. Improving the pedestrian experience with good architecture, reducing curb cuts. We're going to, it's written here, opportunity for public art. We are going to bring public art to what should be a really cool alleyway, in quotes, experience. And all electric building, contribution to the parks, and utilizing the currently unused air rights, and in exchange for a monetary contribution, which should hopefully alleviate.
And just one last comment is, I know that in the original staff comments, there was a couple of open comments that we had. We did submit revised plans that answered all of those, and I think we did all that.
And when I said opportunity for public art, it would be along this alleyway. Yeah. It won't look like this. Per se, yeah. Well, I'm personally not happy with where it's currently at right now. We are going to
but it's really a way to activate that to activate that corner. We're excited about it.
And we have, like, for instance, in State College, Pennsylvania, one of the project managers I was working with on that went across the street to a tattoo parlor and said, "Hey, look, I want to do something really cool. I want to create some art." And this tattoo artist created a awesome version of the Penn State Nittany Lion, and we replicated that across the wall. It's my favorite part of the project. Super local, super cool, and so we hope to try to do something really cool here for this portion of the building as well. Oh, and you can also see here the retail entrance, much better. To that basement retail space, and you can see how it is broken up, whereas everything else is super glazed, with windows. This has got this awesome brick detail kind of denoting a difference in use and change in the block. And that's it. Thank you for the extra time.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We're going to go to staff presentation. Ms. DeLeo.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to focus on some of just our technical review and then provide our staff recommendation. As clear, this is the 625 Church Street site plan for Planning Commission approval, located at the northeast corner of Church and Willard, and in a first, I believe, incorporating some air rights over land owned by the city of Ann Arbor. Site includes the 4 lots of 621, 625, 633 Church, and 1207 Willard. Those make up about 1,600 square feet, and the 3-dimensional area has a that have been sold, has a footprint, like if projected down on the ground, would be about 4,000 square feet, but doesn't actually touch the ground. Some facts about the site that I will repeat. It is zoned D1, Downtown Core Base District, South University Character Overlay District, and secondary street frontage. It is generally surrounded by mixed-use developments that are similar, with ground floor retail and multifamily residential on upper floors. It does have a public parking structure on its back side that is co-owned by the University of Michigan and the City of Ann Arbor. They are correct that City Council passed a resolution in April of this year to approve an agreement for the sale of the air rights. The air rights cover the west end of that service drive, immediately north of the site. The city will retain ownership of the land, the entire parcel, but over that space, they have sold the rights from a point 25 feet in elevation above the ground to a point to the top of the building, to about 206 feet above the surface of the ground. So the city retains ownership of the land and the first 25 feet of the air, and then they'll own from 25 feet upward. I believe that the project team has really covered the details of the proposal pretty well. It's an interesting floor area ratio calculation for this project because of the air rights, and I provided it in the staff report. The D1 district does not have a maximum floor area ratio, so this is just a fun fact. But relative to just its ownership, the 4 lots of privately owned, the FAR is 1,857%. If including the footprint of the air rights, it would be more like 1,490% FAR. I'm confirming that the development utilizes the increase in height limit provided in section 518.4, exception to height limits. It meets the definition of a sustainable development as we define it, and so it may increase the normal 150-foot height limit to by 30% to 195 feet. The project voluntarily provides 2 cargo-sized bicycle parking spaces. And I believe as mentioned, but the service drive, which will probably be occupied just by normal construction events, will be restored in a design developed and approved by the DDA. They did that because there is another project at the other end of the alley that's also going to be sort of tearing up the alley. And so they've done a single design, and each project will be responsible for their portion of restoration, but it will be a coordinated, unified design. I'm going to speed this up because I feel like this is taking forever. We have gone through all of the required procedures, and they have been satisfied for this project, including citizen participation meeting. This project did go to the design review board, and I've noted the council resolution. It's also gone through a 13-point staff review for compliance with applicable codes, ordinances, and policies. 9 departments have recommended approval, and 4 had recommended approval with conditions or actually doing a resubmittal. I should note that since the staff report has been prepared, revised plans have been submitted and are under review. We are just waiting for that confirmation. I should also say that attached to the packet is a draft development agreement. Let me emphasize draft. But it addresses things, as development agreements do. It addresses off-site improvements that don't show up on this site plan, or commitments or special procedures that, again, don't show up on a site plan. That development agreement will next be sent to the attorney's office for their review and then to city council for approval. But city staff, planning staff for this site plan is recommending it be conditionally approved because with the conditions satisfied, it will meet the criteria for site plan approval provided in the UDC. The conditions should be remove the controlled access gates on the east side of the building and address the comments and notations of the engineering and public works reviews. Happy to answer any follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you so much for the staff presentation. We're going to move on to public hearing. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those present and then remote participants. To speak remotely, please press *9 if on the phone or use the raise hand feature on Zoom. For phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name on Zoom. You'll hear an automated announcement that it's your turn to speak, and please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present that would like to speak at this time? Hello again.
Thanks yet again, Shirley. Ken
Of course.
Garber. Someone from the public has to comment on a building this large.
Yeah.
So it might as well be me. I want to point out just how massive this building is compared to what would have been allowed just 2 years ago before City Council removed the floor area ratio limits. Then the maximum FAR in the D1 district was 400% or 900% with premiums. Thanks to Mr. Leo's calculations, I appreciate those, we know that this building's FAR is roughly twice that. With the exception of the covered city drive, this building pretty much fully occupies the entire site up to 19 stories, which is 5 stories higher than the current height limit. It gets those extra stories, as you've heard, by meeting the requirements of UDC 518.4, the sustainability height exception that we've been hearing about, and which I mentioned before. This is the 4th project in just a pretty short period of time that's taken advantage of that. Well, talk about maxing things out. This is not necessarily bad. This is 198 units of housing. but what are we getting in return for a building that would have been both way too massive and too high to be approved just 2 years ago? The housing, rooftop solar, but that'll only meet a fraction of the building's electricity demand. An all-electric building, except for an emergency gas generator, which is good. But remember, Core Spaces did that for their 333 East William building, which did not take advantage of the height exception. I think the FAR limits were about to be removed at the time, and Core Spaces had the building designed already, so they just went with the 14-story building and made it all electric without the height exception. I guess my point is that on Church Street, I speculate that Core Spaces would have been willing to go all electric there too without the height exception, and build up to 14 stories. So I'm not knocking Core Spaces at all. I'm really glad this is an all-electric building. But I think this is a good example of why we should change the UDC height exception to toughen up the sustainability requirement definition, and ideally make the current height exception contingent on both affordability and sustainability as it's defined. My only question that I would pose to the developers is how they're going all electric here. What's the system? Is it a VRF system? Is it rooftop electrically powered boilers? Is it PTAX? Ideally, this would be VRF. That would be the most efficient, but I'm just curious from a technical point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Do we have anyone else present that would like to speak at this time on a 19-story building? Okay, with that, we're going to move to any other speakers?
There is one caller online, Mr. Chair, Adam Juskevich. You have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, Adam Juskevich here, 1430 Las Vegas Drive. I think this is great. I love seeing lots of new housing walkable to campus. As Ken Garber mentioned, this is bumping right up against our height limits with the bonus and all that for sustainability. I wonder if we could get more housing in this area if we raised those limits. Just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
Our next caller is Alex Lowe. You have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, this is Alex Lowe, 2532 Pittsfield Boulevard. Just want to say an answer to the question of what are we getting out of this. We're getting 198 units of housing, which I think it is great. I wish that we could have even more height here. I don't see why 19 stories is a reasonable limit. We've already got a 26-story building in the city. Why didn't we have more and taller? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
There are no further hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Manager Kelly. We'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. Okay, I am going to read the motion here. Just give me 1 second. All right. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission approves the site plan SP 24-0017. This is for 625 Church Street, dated April 21st, 2025, subject to entering into and satisfying all terms of the development agreement with the following conditions. The revised plans are submitted with which satisfactorily remove the controlled access gates on the east side of the building and address the comments and notations on the engineering and public works reviews. Moved by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioner Mills. We are in discussion. Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Sorry.
All right. Who would like to kick us off in discussion? Okay, Commissioner White.
So let's talk about the height first. Whoever would like to address that. If you could go higher, how much higher would you be willing to go? And it's obviously a hypothetical, just trying to get an understanding of the utilization of that sustainability bonus vis-a-vis if we had uncapped it and it was a 300 foot limit as opposed to the 200 that you are constrained with, would that be appealing in any way to you, given the work that you do across the country and the kind of product that you build?
We appreciate that open question and opportunity to kind of speak. Every floor you add is incredibly more efficient because of the fixed costs of these buildings. Every floor you add, it's the same foundation system, same elevators. You add one more floor, but it's incrementally not that much more. At some point, though, there might become some diseconomies of scale from a building construction cost standpoint. But more so than anything, I would say, these are very long projects in the making. And if the code were to change tomorrow, I don't know that we would just add a floor in tomorrow. But 3 years ago, had it been different, we definitely might have utilized some, maybe not all of that 30 stories. The other thing to consider is, these are pretty delicate investments. And so, the investor community is going to say, hey, look, I love this location. At 30 stories, though, is there enough demand at this price point to make a return on the dollar that makes sense? I think we would all agree there's probably infinite demand to live here, but at what price point, right? But I think at a high level, yes, we would have loved to build more beds here. I don't know what that cap is, right? But I think the community is doing a great job bringing in new housing, which absolutely will lower the overall rent levels for everyone.
Can I ask you a slightly modified version? And thank you for that response. If you could give us feedback as a developer building this product in this market, is this height limit, does it constrain you?
It's a tough question, right?
The public doesn't think it's a tough question.
and look, I love, I'm a very pro-develop, not just as a developer, but as a member of my own community. I want more housing because, I rent and I want my rent to be lower. And I think it's good for the community in so many different ways. The challenge is just because you make it 50 stories doesn't mean the capital will be there to build it.
Sure.
And then additionally, how much of that is going to be sought through the land, right? The landowners are going to try to, capture that through increased land value, right? So I think at a high level, more so than anything, what I would say is these capital markets are extremely cyclical, and I think your community is doing a great job in making hay while the capital is there, because when one building doesn't fill, or there's 2 years of negative rent growth, the spigot will turn off, and you can make it 100 stories, and no one will give you the money to build it. And so that's why I think it's just good to be smart growth oriented, and I think your community really is doing a good job of that. I'm not just saying that as someone trying to.
No, I mean,
I swear to you, yeah. It wasn't always that way.
No, and I lived in Ann Arbor for 8 years, so I was here for undergrad and graduate school. So I mean, I can feel how the community is changed with where you've added density. I'm proud of the projects that we're doing here. I think it's really. My comment on it is to be thoughtful about where you want your growth, and then to pick that sort of core area, for lack of a better word, pun intended, and say that that's where we want to add the height. Because in your mind, you should be doing sort of the analysis, I would think, that would you rather have a series of sequential 14-story buildings, 12-story buildings going up and down whole city blocks, or would you rather have had 3 that were bigger? And it's that kind of balancing that you think about for how you want to populate Southview and other areas around the city. But it does ease some of the burden on our costs when you can go a little bit higher. It makes more economies of scale and lets you do more things.
Yeah, and I think from a design perspective.
Can you talk into the mic? Sorry.
And I think from a design perspective, and I won't speak for Joe and Jared on the pro forma side, but in my experience, what I see with additional height is what they mentioned on the capital side. It's not everybody is going to top out at that height that they're given. You will induce some variety in the building that gets done in the city, and to each individual building, This is a very simple, clean, Joe mentioned there's no dancing windows on this one intentionally, have a nice, clean and simple building, but what the extra height affords you to do is assess your unit mix and think, where can we add in some diversity, attract a different variety of renters, and that in turn can change the exterior expression of the building by treating those floors perhaps a little more differently and give it a little bit more of what I'll say a flavor to the exterior design in a thoughtful manner.
Or more step backs or something, because now
Sure.
you're not capped at height, and you would have gotten the same FAR anyways, and it's,
sorry.
yeah, so.
I'm just going to add a mundane element.
Sure.
Because you can't just think of the architecture and the beds. Scott and I have worked on many projects approximating this size. And one of the things we're reaching the limit of is the ability to service them. If you had a taller building, you'd have to delegate so much of your first floor to trash and recycle that, you wouldn't have the space for the retail. So we're really kind of hitting that point where we're going to have trash pickup most days of the week, if not all days of the week. And if you went taller, you'd either have to give up more space or have multiple times a day servicing. So there's those mundane logistical things to consider as well.
All right. Thank you for those answers. The other thing, and I'll give it to you. You don't have to answer it right now because I want to ask some other questions, and then I'll see how I'm doing on time and come back to it, which was precisely to Mr. Garber's question, which is if the sustainability and the affordability were tied together in order to unlock the height bonus, would you still pursue both? So that's the would you still pursue the height if you had it tied to the affordability units? So my questions, and we can start with this artwork, because I think this is like the Rick's Club Alley. Is that where this is located? It has another affectionate name. So you're coming in, and the Galleria is coming in, and you're both on this city-owned land. And Planner DeLeo said that you're both going to help reconstruct it once you're done. I wonder, have you all collaborated about creating a complete space as opposed to just the each side of the development, to just make sure that it's a contiguous, because it could actually be a destination. And I don't know if you all think about things like this, but people look for these unique spaces in order to take pictures, and to do sort of geocaching, things along those lines. And so you actually have an opportunity to do just a really light placemaking in this space that has otherwise been sort of abandoned to what that alley is affectionately known as.
Yeah.
So have you all given any thought to that? Is that in any of the conversations? Go ahead, Planner DeLeo.
They can feel free to add. The DDA has hired Smith Group to do exactly that. Because there's two developers, and we've taken the coordination role and the burden for them to coordinate between two competing developers. And the DDA has hired Smith Group to come up with plans, and they're close to done, and they are, they will, on the one hand, it'll be largely the same, but on the other hand, they are taking the opportunity to make sure that it functions for both new projects, can handle the service functions like trash, but with the increased pedestrians, they are looking at a curbless design and the design treatments to give equal footing to both cars and pedestrians, and to make it, continue making it a worthwhile service alley.
Okay.
So you can add more, but yes, the DDA has hired Smith Group, and they've almost finished with designs. And each developer, I don't have any linear feet in front of me, but if the two projects almost exactly meet, and so they'll be doing 40% of the design, and the other project is the other 60%. Same design.
And so, and with the basis of design that the DDA will come up with, our goal is to really activate that connection point between church and forest. And that's why the mural in the overhang, we really think it's an opportunity. So we echo everything that you've said.
Yeah, and anything you can do to bring some light into that space, especially at night, because I think Rick's is being preserved in the other development. I thought I read in the paper.
They're continuing their operation next door.
Yeah, so you're going to have pedestrians in that space, the whole time that they're waiting to get in. And so having something that makes that a little bit more appealing is definitely something I just want to daylight.
Yeah, and to your point, it's tough to see with the floral design here, but there will be recessed downlights.
Sure.
And we're working with our lighting designer on the project to potentially do a wall wash fixture, as you see it on the top corner of that mural. So that's definitely in the forefront of our thoughts of how we're trying to treat this space. And, the line to Rick's will cue there, make it more usable, lively, light.
Yeah. And then my last question for now is, how do you plan to deal with all of the delivery services?
Right, I'll take that question first. In the back left of this first floor, behind where the mural ends, there will be a large trash loading area. Actually, it's oversized because it's not just for this building. So we'll have both. Come on, Brad.
There's a loading zone right out front as well, if you could scroll to the site plan.
Do you want to take it?
I don't know if we have the site plan up there.
Yeah, I saw it on the site plan. It's this right here. You have about, 2.5, maybe 3 parking spaces as a loading zone, but no curb cut. So did the DDA, are you buying those spots and then permanently preventing people from parking there? And then who does enforcement? Because just because you draw it on a map doesn't mean that the Amazon deliverer is going to use that. It doesn't mean that the Uber Eats person's going to use that. It doesn't mean that the florist who's delivering the Valentine's Day flowers is going to use that. All of those things are real, by the way.
This is similar to what we provided at the Legacy over on Washington Street and also on the 1209 South University, where we have.
But it's not recessed here, right, Mr. Moore? It's straight at the street.
And that's a requirement of the fire marshal. He didn't want the bump outs.
Planner DeLeo?
Yes, there's a dance involved between making sure that the sidewalk is wide enough to provide all the amenities that you like, but then not too wide that they still meet fire access requirements. And bump outs do have a role in that. Curbside management is an ongoing issue citywide, not just this project. They have proactively shown, and the DDA has approved, because the DDA does manage the on-street parking. I think that while we've all looked at this curbside management, it is an evolving policy and management, and if more space is needed due to the volume, I think that the DDA will manage the curbside accordingly, and that would be citywide, not just for this project.
Yeah, it's just pedestrians that lose out in these spaces when we don't actually make them available for the services. I'm not criticizing you, of course, because you're not in charge of
maybe not
any
so
of
much,
this.
not so much the pedestrians, but actually the on-street bikers.
Yeah,
That's who more loses out.
Okay, I'm going to stop for now to allow my colleagues to talk. I have some more if there's time.
Great. Who else would like to comment? Commissioner Abrams.
I just have a quick question. What kind of retail do you imagine in the basement?
Likely some type of light food and alcohol bar, restaurant type establishment would be my guess. We could very well get some apparel. It's a big space, probably going to be cheaper, type space more generally compared to what other apparel users might find elsewhere for that size. Because not a lot of people are building, this type of retail. We really believe in it and its continued growth of this area, so that's why we're building it. It's too early to tell, but right now, generally speaking, quick service restaurants are typically the number one, user. That space is not designed for them, but then bar restaurants tend to be another high demand user, and then I would say thirdly would be what I mentioned, like apparel or bigger entertainment type uses. Of course.
Great. Any other commissioners? Thoughts, comments? Commissioner Mills.
Because I'm looking at bike rooms today, I'll say I appreciate where it is. I think that's quick access for cyclists. I think it'll get used. I hope it gets used for your perspective too, right? Like, I mean, that's valuable ground, like first floor area, but coming right there off the alley, and it's not too far in, or, you know, I guess that's not actually the alley, but it's going to operate sort of like a pedestrian alley, right? I also think creating a more welcoming space to get back out of the parking garage will make this a much more comfortable place. So I appreciate that. I do want to go back to the question that Commissioner Weich posed about like sustainability plus affordability. And then I have one more, because I didn't hear the answer to that. And you posed it and you didn't give an answer.
I posed it.
I know. So I'm going to ask for the answer, and then I do want to know kind of if you've thought about how you're going to be conditioning the space, like what kind of units.
Yes. We are doing VRF, and I'll let John talk a little bit more about the actual HVAC system. But I think to answer the question about affordability and sustainability, a lot to unpack here. Effectively, though, like I think what really carries the most weight for affordability, a lot of private development. You are not going to solve affordability crises through affordable housing development or mandating affordable requirements. You're going to do it by a ton of development in the private space and bringing the overall rent level down, in my opinion. Because it's going to move the needle so much more, right? Because you could build 1,000 affordable units, but if 1,000 more, it's just like the math doesn't work when you really break it down. I'd be happy to try to unpack that a little bit more mathematically, but the sustainability does somewhat run a little counter to that, right? When we do these sustainable things, we're making these buildings more expensive to build and therefore increasing the hurdle for attracting capital. But what I would say is the most sustainable thing you can do is reduce the reliance on vehicular traffic and increasing the ability for you to not need a car and walk everywhere, and creating these 15-minute cities, right? The reduction in maintenance on roads, everything, when you add it all up, these hidden costs of society, like building density in these places is absolutely the way to do it. Look no further than what happens in Dallas when they just abandon rings around the Metroplex and go to the next one out. Those city services are struggling so much to keep up with the pace. Taxes are flying up and they still can't keep up with it. It's just not a sustainable way to build a society. Nothing against Dallas people. But so in other words, yes, imposing, incentivizing sustainable development is great for the environment. I do think there is merit to increased development being good for the environment, agnostic of having an all-electric building. And not to say they're mutually exclusive, but just something to consider broadly.
And then actually, it's a VRP system.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a very minor clarification. It's a VRP, can be confusing. It's a variable refrigerant pack system. And the added benefit to that, as far as a sustainability component to the project, you can see in this image here, we have integrated these exterior louvers into facade, so you're welcoming in additional fresh outside air that's not being fed down to the corridors and then into the units. So from that perspective, an interior environment, it's much more preferred from my perspective. So I did want to address that answer as well with the gentleman's question from earlier, just to clarify that.
Do you have one more question just on this? Do you have any sense of, are you building to the new energy code in terms of making the HVAC doable? Are you exceeding the energy code? Can you just can you give us a sense in terms of how tight how well insulated your building is?
Yes, it's right now we're tracking to the new updated energy codes. We're at the point of issuing documents with mechanical equipment selections, and our sustainability consultant for the project will be able to vet that and kind of dial in where above that threshold we're coming in at currently. So that's probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks we'll have a good idea about that. But generally speaking, it's not trying to go for anything. I guess I had a lost train of thought, but nothing that would be below that threshold in terms of like LEED certification levels or anything like that. We're coming in right at or above where we would be required by the codes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing? I think there's like
sure.
a saying, 50% of your waste comes at the building and 50% of your waste comes in the operation of the building through its useful life. And so if you're really more efficient in building housing by building it in with one roof, one foundation, all that, right? That's part of the math trade-off that you also have to consider, right? Because the building, there's so much sustainability by being more efficient with it versus just the operation of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Thoughts, comments? Okay, I will give it a crack. Yeah, overall, again, looking at massing, height, again, 150 feet on the South University character overlay with a 30% premium. Totally get it. I just ran some back. I do want to actually address that point about the affordability, sustainability. I think it is something that we should probably talk about. Again, I think it complies on a by right, it complies with the standards that we've created. So, where my head is going is the site's 16,000 square feet. So, photovoltaics, if you're doing 60%, it's about like 10,000-ish square feet. That's photovoltaics. Probably going to cost you $100,000, maybe $150,000 because you got a bunch of conduits running up. I mean, it's a large building. That compared to 15% affordable. I'm just thinking through the proportionality. And again, who can blame you from taking it just from what mathematically makes more sense, right? And so but I'm just pointing out just objective facts of what I see here. And so when I take a look, an additional, let's say, 4 floors, something like 4 or 5, right? I would say if you're using an average of $350 a square foot in rental rates, you could potentially add, and let's use a 60% OpEx ratio. I'm just going to be throwing out a few just back and napkin stuff here. You could potentially add another $1.5 million in NOI here, just using that kind of like sustainability or the height premium. Mm-hmm. And so generally the cap rates here trading about 4.5, 4.25. So it increases the value of the building by $34 to $40 million, just based on the virtue of that. Again, you're still delivering units. So this is just kind of an observation, just from a proportionality standpoint of what the solar relative to affordability. It's a no-brainer why it's being chosen just from the solar perspective. So I do think that we need to have a real discussion around just the proportionality of that. That being said, again, I agree with you. Capital markets are fickle. Even with kind of global politics that we have, sovereignty funds look at the U.S. and they say, is that really where we want to invest right now? So there's a lot of kind of fluctuation. So I agree with your assessment that the cap stack has to make sense at that point in time with a project and a product type that they know, right? And so I'm with you. I'm just, again, looking at it objectively, 653 beds, 198 units, so 3.3 beds average per unit. And then taking a look at just kind of the value creation through, again, and I'm glad that the project works and that it'll, but looking at what would have been 15% of a payment in lieu contribution, let's say. I think the spread is $127 a square foot relative to the 15% of units. And so an affordability contribution would have been somewhere around like $3 million. Now, again, granted, that's not the way that the code reads. So again, I can't necessarily, I'm only just making an observation here. So I just think that we do need to have a discussion about proportionality, but that being said, the code is what it is. All we can do is administratively say, this is what it states currently. So by virtue of that, from an FAR standpoint, there is no FAR. From a height standpoint, it's permitted based on the current sustainability premiums that is written in the code. Permitted use, I think it complies. So given that it addresses, given the conditions that we have, that we've talked about with those 2 conditions, I would be in support of this project. So that is my comments. Any other commissioners with any final thoughts?
One quick question.
Yes.
This is from the citizen participation. It says you sent out about 1,700 postcards. Do you have any sense of how many were returned? And we're asking because we're getting a lot of questions about how this works. So from my calculation, you sent out 1,694 postcards. You noted in your report you had about 24 people show up, which means you had about a 1.5% participation rate from the postcards to who showed up in the room. And what we didn't have in your report was whether you had any undelivered postcards.
Approximately 200 were returned.
So 200, and so those addresses come from us, from the city, and then you just send it out, and then they come back to you or to the city?
No, they come back to.
They come back to you,
yeah.
okay. So about 200, so about 12, 13%. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners with final thoughts before we have this vote? Just one thing that I'll also mention. Have you guys done a property tax calc? I'm sure you have, from the assessment standpoint based on the total cost. One of the things I do want to point out is that it will increase tax revenues significantly for the city, and a part of that millage is going to go towards affordable housing, right? So the question just being, what does that approximately look like? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, without looking it up on my phone right now, it'd be over $1 million net increase.
Gotcha.
Per year.
On property taxes or just on the affordable housing millage?
Property taxes
Property
overall.
taxes.
I don't know the breakdown.
Gotcha. I would think that, assuming $300-400 a square foot, you're probably looking at somewhere between $100 and $140 million total project cost. Divide that by the two. I'm basically trying to forecast, just proportionally, there is also property tax revenues being generated by virtue of this project occurring, and then that will be in perpetuity funding towards affordable housing millage. So that's something I want to point out again. Like, I'm not looking to pass our code says what it is. That comment regarding like the affordable housing millage, or I'm sorry, the affordability premium relative to sustainability, I think just looking at the absolute merits of it, there's a proportionality question that we have to answer. That's on us. That's not you. And then, but I also want to recognize that this project on a by right basis will increase property taxes and the revenue overall base for the city.
I just confirmed on my quick math. I didn't pull up the actual number that we think it's going to be, but over $1 million is I feel comfortable saying that, a net increase annually.
Yeah, for sure.
Total.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation. All right. This is a large project. I'm just going to give a little bit more space for commissioners with any final thoughts. Okay. All right. With that, we will go to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Norton.
Yes.
Commissioner Weatherby.
Yes.
Commissioner Mills.
Yes.
Commissioner Abrams.
Yes.
Commissioner Weiss.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
That carries.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We appreciate the conversation.
I will, of course. I'll miss University Cafe. I grew up on their bulgogi in college, so. Okay, we're going to move on to 10A. This is other business. We are going to the City Planning Commission 2025 calendar. We'll go to staff.
Yes, these are a few more adjustments to introduce some 5:30 start time meetings and just one of your, what would have been a fourth Tuesday meeting to make that a 5:30 PM regular meeting. So this adjustment affects additional dates of June 3rd, June 24th, and July 1st. Two of those were regular meetings anyway. June 3rd and July 1st, those would move those existing regular meetings to a 5:30 start time proposed, and for the other date, June 24th, that would exchange calendar hold for a committee meeting for a regular session at 5:30. And I believe on the 24th date, we will have to find a new location for you because it conflicts with the police oversight board, which meets in this room, potentially TBD. But that is, so a potential motion would be to adopt the calendar as presented in the packet.
Okay, any discussion? Commissioner Abrams.
Just a few comments. May 27th, 2025 is included here, but I think that was canceled as of today.
So it could be amended
So we could amend that.
strike that date.
And then I think this is probably just an administrative thing, but there are 3 dates on here that are moved for holidays, but our calendar invites are still showing the Tuesday. So maybe once we approve this, those will get updated, right? That's probably how that works. But
I will work with administrative staff tomorrow to ensure that happens.
do you want me to tell you which 3 they are?
Yes.
Okay, September 25th, October 16th, and November 12th.
So those days are not in your calendar invite or are incorrectly?
They're still on the Tuesday instead of the Wednesday or Thursday where they.
Okay.
So
got
this
it,
is
got it.
correct. It's just that the calendar invite needs to be updated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So right now.
So a
we're-
friendly amendment to strike May 27th from this.
Yes.
If we're going to vote to approve it. Yeah.
Yes, second. Discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes.
Could
So
you share who first and seconded that?
Commissioner Abrams, I seconded it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So May 27th is gone on this draft currently, and then June 3rd and June 24th are noted as 5:30 start dates.
And July 1st.
And July 1st.
And then I have a question.
Yeah, Commissioner Weich.
So we met as an executive team to propose a retreat. Has that been jettisoned?
I was asked to hold off on additional planning for that while some of the comprehensive plan activity bore itself out. So I will check back in to get updated direction on that from Manager Leonard.
Okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? I think we're okay with that, so do we just
It's
need to do
just something in my brain, and I don't know if this is exactly the case, but I don't think the chair can second. I think it has to be someone
I'll
else.
second.
Okay.
Okay, so
Commissioner Weich,
Abrams
sorry.
and Weich, and would you do another voice vote for me?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that is formally passed.
Appreciate that.
Apologies. No, you're fine, I apologize. Okay, any other thoughts on the calendar? To reiterate, we're looking at June 3rd, for those of you watching, June 3rd, June 24th, and July 1st as 5:30 PM start dates. Okay. Okay, and then can we just do a voice vote on this one? You need a formal, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I thought you already did it.
Okay. Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, no, I thought
No,
we
that
were.
was on the amendment.
On the
to
amendment.
strike
With the second,
22nd,
yeah,
which is
we
what
rolled
he-
it back. I apologize for any confusion. Okay, so, okay, you want to do it one more time? All right, let's do it for good luck. Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's not that.
We're going to
not
move
getting
on to
sued
agenda
over
number 11, which is the public comment. This is a second opportunity for individuals to speak up for 3 minutes on any issue. We'll first hear from those present and then remote participants. To speak remotely, please press star 9 if on the phone or use the raise hand feature in Zoom. For phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name on Zoom. You'll hear an automated announcement that is your turn to speak. Please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present who would like to speak at this time?
Hi, I'm Lisa Young again, live at 8616 3rd Street, and I just want to thank you all for your support of the farmers market with all the construction that's happening around there. As you all know, parking is a perpetual problem, so I really appreciate the comments about coordinating with DDA on thinking about creating space for the vendors in particular to load and unload. It's especially problematic for the vendors with very large trucks that are unloading on Detroit Street. So, and most of them are there between 6 and 8 in the morning, so it's a small window, although the customers like to park in that space too. The other thing I just learned the other day is that the city is doing some wayfinding from the parking structure to the market, which I think is a great project. I would encourage, and I'll try to go to the meeting if there's discussion about the development plan, about wayfinding during the construction. discussion, because I think it's often challenging for people to figure out which end of the market to go in, especially with the office having come down. The other thing is, I want to thank Commissioner Weatherby for comments about the market. We are at a place where City Parks is about to start its revisioning community engagement, and so I would like to see the market really vibrant this fall to get a lot of great community engagement so that we can plan for the next 100 years of the market. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other present that would like to speak at this time? Okay. Do we have any remote callers?
We do. Our first caller is Brad. You have permission to address Planning Commission.
Thank you. Brad Fritz, 3030 Lexington, resident in Ann Arbor since 1993 in the 2nd Ward. Let me first thank all the commissioners for your service as hard-serving volunteers, and thank the staff as well for very good professional work in everything that's done. I have 2 points I'd like to make. First, with regard to, both of these are with regard to the comprehensive plan. I would like to see, we can see that there's a lot of dispute and controversy over the plan. I'd like to see objective data from a statistically valid survey done to help inform the Planning Commission and Council on how best to serve the needs of residents. And right here in Ann Arbor, we have Institute for Social Research, a world-renowned organization in survey research. Shame on us if we can't apply that kind of standard to our city decision-making. Second point, let me ask you to consider your priorities as kind of 4 different groups or ranks of priority. Number 1, those who live here today and are challenged financially, whether by wealth or income limitations, and are at the margin, let's think of those folks first. Number 2, the rest of us who live here today. I will gratefully say that financially I am not challenged. Number 3, those who would be interested in living here, but don't at this moment. Yes, let's think about them, but they are, I don't mean to be selfish, but they're the 3rd priority. And finally, and this is kind of a separate dimension, you do need to think about the owners, whether they live here or not. You need to be equitable in dealing with them. So that would be my request to you, to consider things in that priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are 2 more callers. Mark Serbo, you have permission to address Planning Commission.
Hello, this is Mark Scrivo at 2017 Fair Street. I just want to share a quick story that I heard secondhand from a local dentist. He had a practice off of Huron Street, near downtown, near Lurie Terrace. I guess the practice was doing well, and so he wanted to expand. And he tried to expand the building that he was in. He said he wanted to be near downtown, be able to have customers walking and using the bus to get to his practice. But because his building was in the Old West Side and limited by historic district requirements, he wasn't able to do so. So he moved his business to a new building off of Liberty, outside of the highway ring, and actually wanted to add more parking at that location and had to apply for a variance because the closest bus stop is over half a mile away. There are no sidewalks that go to that area. There is a bike lane that I use to bike on every single day, and it is terrifying. And then ends suddenly. So here's another business owner who would like to be in downtown, have a successful business, was forced out to a place that is not accessible. And I'm really looking forward to seeing a comprehensive plan that encourages and eventually allows for zoning that allows for more neighborhood businesses more connection between where people live and where people need to go on a daily basis. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Our final hand raised is Lisa Jevons. You have permission to address Planning Commission.
Hi, I would still like my question answered from the beginning of the meeting regarding mailers. For some reason, the commissioner did not give the other commissioners a chance to respond after public comment ended at the beginning, which sometimes is done. I know the city that has a list of every residential dwelling unit in the city, regardless of whether they are occupied by owners or renters. It has the ability to reach all resident addresses. So I'll just ask again, maybe if you don't have this information now, you could answer it at a future meeting. Was a mailing ever considered in 2024 when the public comprehensive planning process began? And if it was considered, why was nothing sent? And if a mailing was never even considered, then why not? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
An additional hand raised, and that is for Adam Juskevich. You have permission to address the Planning Commission.
Hey, Adam Juskevich here, 1430 Las Vegas Drive again. I did find it a little bit concerning that with the postcards that were sent out for the development that you recently talked about, something like 12 or 13% of them were actually returned to sender. I presume that's an area that's pretty heavy in renters. So I really think that if we're going to be using mailers as kind of a primary means of contacting people, that we need to figure out a way that we can equitably engage renters, especially given that renters are more than half of the residents within Ann Arbor. And I think that their voice is just as important as owner-occupied properties within Ann Arbor, and certainly more important than property owners who live outside of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
That appears to be our final caller this evening.
Okay, give it just. Okay, with that, we are going to close public comment. We're going to move on to agenda item 12, which is commission proposed business. Do we have any? Yes, Commissioner Weich, and then Commissioner Abrams.
I think we're going to answer the same question, or no? Oh, okay. So we wanted to answer your question, Ms. Jevons, about the postcard. So I was on the subcommittee for the comprehensive plan, but not initially on the one that interfaced with the public. And I don't believe we had any discussion about utilizing postcards for notification. I was trying to find the Interface Studios RFP response, which broke down what their deliverables were, and I don't recall seeing postcards in there. I don't know if staff have any more details on that specific question that you can offer tonight.
Sure. From what I know, as you know, I'm not the primary point of contact for this, but I have been adjacent, as of course all the other staff, to this process. There were two postcard items raised. One was a recent mailer that was sent to folks' homes, and I can report that that was not from the city of Ann Arbor. I'm not aware of what that mailer is or who sent that. So there were, I think, early 3 callers who mentioned that, but I'm not sure who sent it or what information it contains.
It's the city council.
Okay.
Each of our city council members have money in the budget to send out a communication to residents. And I think the ones for Ward 4, mine just came this week.
Okay.
So it has both my city council reps plus the mayor and everything they've done in the last several weeks. So I think what they're doing if I'm understanding the caller correctly, is they're saying, this is the first time I've ever gotten this. It's because they just added it to the budget. And if they're able to send this out, why weren't they also able to send out the comp plan? But you can't answer that question, and I can't answer that question. But I don't think in the comp plan conversation, there was a deliverable from the consultant for us to do a mailer or a recommendation for that, if I
can't speak to whether or not it was discussed to be included in their scope, but I know that mailers are something that, of course, we consider because it's an obvious way to reach people. It costs tens of thousands of dollars, and there is a trade-off there. Do you want to use that budget money for your consultant to do analysis or other types of public outreach or staff public meetings and help to answer questions and create engaging boards with useful information? Or do you want to send something that may be returned to sender or thrown in the recycling? So sometimes cities will bundle these with things like tax bills or utility bills to get some type of cost savings that requires a pretty intense amount of coordination in advance. I'm sure Manager Leonard knows whether that was considered and why it was not ultimately done, but though that's generally where you can get some cost savings with that type of thing. But I'm sure it was a trade-off discussion.
And I think with the chair's permission, just a quick comment. So I did participate in some of the early engagement, also with like Planner DeLeo at some of the fairs in downtown Ann Arbor with boards and trying to go to where people were already, but bringing sort of a planning in a box kind of presentation so that it didn't disrupt sort of people's expectation for where this information would be. And I know I spent at least an hour there, and I think you all were there for several hours, answering questions and talking to people. I'm sure there were easily 2,000 to 5,000 people who passed by that space, and that was just one event that was done before we even got engaged with the consultant on this process. So I did find the RFP. It's on page 43, section 1.7, marketing materials and updates, and it just goes through a litany of potential items that the consultants recommended to the city for how we should communicate. So hopefully that answers that question. Now yield my time.
Thanks. Commissioner Abrams.
As an aside, I get my water bill digitally, as I imagine many people do. So I don't know how viable an option that is here in Ann Arbor. But Commission proposed business, since Commissioner Mills asked why were we looking at this 2-unit housing project. Can we just make a note somewhere that we should update this table 5.29-1, which is the required approvals for development activities by land use, where for some reason we do have Planning Commission approval required for a residential dwelling 1 to 4 units in a mixed-use zone, which I think we should revisit. Thanks.
We will be doing an annual update of your CPC work program, and I think that may be a good opportunity to introduce something like that.
Thanks.
I will throw in the premium for us to, I would like an assessment. Just back of napkin, again, those numbers are extremely preliminary, just based on what I know. But the pretty clear pattern, right, of utilization, specifically on sustainability. And we have been talking about how can we be more clear about what we consider to be sustainable, / is it proportional? We want to make sure that we ensure proportionality. So,
okay. Our current plan, I hope, would be to bring this to your 6:10 working session for discussion. There are also some other items that are slated for that agenda. For example, a presentation by Suzanne Flowers from our Transportation Division on an update to tiered corridors. So we'll see what we can put into that agenda, and then it would come to a subsequent regular session.
Got it. Thank you. Any other commission proposed business? Yes, Commissioner Mills.
Because we're adding to the list of things that we could consider for an ORC world, I can't remember. I know we've discussed in the last 6 months-ish, bicycle parking requirements and kind of spaces. That's still pending, right? We haven't finalized it. Is that right?
I can give a brief ORC update specific to bike parking. Staff have been working on them. We actually, I believe we have a staff meeting tomorrow to talk about latest draft, but we have been deliberately slow, not wanting to overwhelm any ORC members who are also working on the comp plan, which is all of them. So we had planned on coming to you in your July. We had planned on asking if the ORC wanted to meet in July or if they wanted a night off. And if you want to meet in July, we have a draft.
It was more just so that I didn't forget that we had finalized something. Since it is still pending, if we can just put a note remembering that first proposal, the Detroit Street one that we dealt with tonight, and kind of it is a similar like location of bike room as some other things that we've seen, and this is just another good example, I think. Thank you.
Got it. Cool. Any other commission proposed business? All right, there's only one item left on the agenda, which is adjournment. Do I have a move by Commissioner Weiss, second by Commissioner Weatherby? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
It's so early.